Good morning. Welcome to this week's weekly Wednesday webinar. My name is Denise Broom, and I'm a CAD support specialist in the Engineering CAD Systems office. This week's topic is going to be on SS4, the LDM Enhancements, or Linked Data Manager. So basically, what we're doing here today is talking about the enhancements and the things that have been added to Linked Data Manager in version 1.01.10. This version was released with FDOTSS4 and also with FDOTSS2 Maintenance Release 4. They both came out within the last month. SS2 came out mid-July and SS4 came out just last week. Okay, and then whenever I get done, we'll answer some questions, anything that you might have going on. The first thing that I wanted to talk about, there's some of you that have seen this issue. It's a problem that we had with LDM with the Windows display settings. And Microsoft Office interacts with those display settings, and what it causes is a variation in the column widths. Whenever we bring Excel templates into MicroStation using LDM. And basically what the issue is, if I had my display settings set to smaller, and on my desktop this is the default, and it is also the settings that I used in order to create the templates that we have in LDM. What happened was when newer laptops started being used, at least I saw it in laptops. I know my new laptop here at work, I could duplicate this. The default setting for the Windows display was set to medium, and it caused, whenever I was using the same template file, when I brought it into MicroStation and on my laptop, my columns would be wider. Okay, if I took that same document and template and brought it into on my desktop where the default was set to smaller, then it would come in onto my sheet like it was supposed to. And it took us a while to figure out why this was happening, but we've addressed this issue now, and the columns will come in the same no matter which display option that I use, smaller, medium, or larger. So hopefully there's some of you out there that if you've seen this problem before, now you know what it is, and once you start using the newer version, 1.1.10, this issue will go away, and you'll be able to use our templates exactly as they are. The options were either you modify the templates yourselves, and I've known a few people that have actually done that, or to go into your display settings and adjust it to use the smaller or 100% to get that fixed. What else is new? We've added a textile for use with LDM, and basically I took the FDOT bold small and copied it and then renamed it FDOT bold LDM. Issue that we had with some of our summary boxes, and I know in particular the flood data table, when you brought that template into MicroStation, we were running into the issue where the word wrap would start sooner than it should have, and it just made your boxes just not look quite right. It just wasn't justified correctly within the box. Well, what the cause of that was is with the textile that we were calling for in our XML settings file was the FDOT bold small, and that has a line length of 120 characters. We didn't want to go in and just change that text style, because if I move that on up to 250, then it could have caused problems in other design files that you had changing the line length. So instead, we've created a new one, and we've set this line length to 250. And let me just, if that does not really sinking in exactly what I'm talking about, let me go ahead and show it to you. There we go. This works. Okay, so up here at the top, I have an example of the summary of flood data. And it is set, I used an LDM project settings directory, or settings file, excuse me, to create or mimic what it would do prior to me creating this textile. And you can see where if we were to look in the Excel file, my text would show up in that merged cell below the box all the way out to over here. And instead, it's cutting itself off closer to, you know, it's like three cells away from where it should be. And it just doesn't quite look right. I've had several people call me about this and asking why is it doing this? How can I fix it? And it wound up being you'd have to go into the file itself and change that line length. Okay, so what does it look like now? If I open up Link Data Manager, I can create a new link, and I'm going to create that same box. Okay, and it's under Data Boxes, Flood Data. Tell it OK. I'm going to save this in my roadway directory. Yes, I can replace the one that's there. I'm going to grab the worksheet and turn on the print area and tell it OK. Okay, so this is the new box with the new textile. And notice that instead of it cutting off underneath the discharge column, it's going all the way out to the last column of the summary box. So now the text is coming in like it's supposed to. Okay, and that's what I was talking about when I have, in fact, I will go ahead and open this. This is all one merged cell in here. So I took all of those cells and merged them into one and just let Excel do the word wrap for me and didn't put in hard returns within the cell. Okay, so that's why when the line length in MicroStation was the limiting factor with the textile and not Excel. All right. And the last thing I wanted to show you about the textiles is that if you have a project settings file, and that's created by clicking on project settings, if you have one of these created like I did, so I'm going to go to open and I'm going to bring up FDOT small Excel LDM. I'm going to open it. I go to Excel files and go to text. What was in there previously was the FDOT bold small in order for it to look like it does. In order to correct that, if this is something that you have done, then you'll need to go in and change this text style to FDOT bold LDM and then save it. And then you can go up to the link. Oops, tell it did save. Let me close that. And then I can go to the link for this and tell it to update now. And it will correct the issue for you if you've created the if you have created a project settings file. If you have a site settings file for your office, you will need to go into that site settings.xml file that resides somewhere out there on the server for everyone to access, and go in and look for, under the Excel settings, look for the textile and modify the textile value. As soon as you've done that, you don't have to be out of MicroStation. As soon as you've done that, you can go into the link as I just did and update it, and it will fix it from there. Okay. All right, new templates. I have added several new templates. In Word, I've added some blank templates for you guys to use. I've got them set up as a whole plan sheet, half horizontal, half vertical, and that's supposed to be 1/3 vertical. I'm not sure what happened here. And I also have a quarter of a sheet. Those are blank Word files that you can use as a template that are set up to, how do I word this? It's set up so that it has the same dimensions that we use in our plan sheet in MicroStation. The way Word works is with LDM, and when we bring it in, it sees the entire page. So not just what may be in my margins. So modifying my margins doesn't cut it when I'm trying to work with the Word docs and LDM. I have to actually go to the page size. So an 8.5 by 11 sheet in Word is 8.5 feet by 11 feet in MicroStation, and that's compatible and comparable to what our plan sheets dimensions. So these 5 templates are set up with those dimensions. A plan sheet is 15.4 feet by 9.6 feet, if you measure that out. So that's what I did with the page sizes, and I'll show it to you in a few minutes. The other thing that I added was responsibility statements for your signature sheets. Up until now, there hasn't been anything out there for you guys to use. There's not a cell like we have for your plan sheets, because on a plan sheet, that is the digital signature, or not, yeah, the digital signature note that goes up the right-hand side of your plan sheets. On your signature sheet, we don't use that digital signature note out there on the side of our sheet. And the reason for that is because we have multiple, or possibility of multiple types of engineers that could be signing and sealing a set of plans. You could have surveyors, PEs, geotechs, landscape architects, all signing and sealing the same document. And that's the whole purpose of having a signature sheet, so we can have multiple I don't want to say engineers, because they're not all engineers, but I have multiple people signing and sealing that one PDF, one set of plans, and they all take responsibility for certain parts of that PDF file in different sheets. So I've developed these responsibility statements. They have the correct rule depending on whether you're a surveyor, a PE, a landscape architect, etc. All the rules are in there. So all I have to do is pop this in as a Word doc link. You can add to it if there is further language you need to add to that statement. Save it, and then you have it for another set of plans. So that's been added. I've also, as far as TXT files, there is a strong project note that has been added that you can use on the key sheet. And I've also added back the geotech soil stratum notes. It was something that was there before, and I did not realize it was being used. It's in there, but I missed it as far as the PPM goes. And I did a cleanup with the last release where I said, okay, if this isn't in the PPM and no one gets back to me and says, okay, we're using these notes, then I did a cleanup and got rid of those old, because some of them are very, very old. And so you're going to find not nearly as many of the TXT files, but this is definitely something that was used, so I've added that soil stratum notes back to the TXT list in the when you create link from template. And the last new template is the Excel file for the summary of monitor existing structures. And I've got a few more slides that I'm going to get into in just a few minutes, but first I want to go in and show you the other templates that we've got out there. Okay, so I've got just some blank plan sheets sitting out here, and I want to go in and I just want to show you how these work. I'm going to go create new from template, and I'm going to scroll until I get to the Word documents. And I'm just going to grab one of these, say it's, okay, this is a quarter sheet. I would put this in my roadway directory, and I'm going to save that. I'm leaving the page spacing on and the page boundary on just so that it's easier for you to see. So if I don't need the update. Okay, so you can see the outline for this particular, why is it not snapping like I want it to? Okay, close enough. So I have a document that is now linked, and it takes up 1/4 of my sheet. This could be good if I know I have details going on down here, and I may have just this little portion here that I'm going to have notes in, or maybe I've got 2 columns of notes that I want to go across both sheets. I'm going to go ahead and open up the source file, which is the Word doc. Okay, and each one of these Word docs, I have a description as well as some recommendations. Within each of these, I can go in, and it does see the style, so I can change that. I can go in and put in, say title, and I'm going to change that to, say, notes. Okay. Maybe I've decided I want that to be centered. Okay. And then I'm going to go underneath the notes. It goes back to normal, and I can add in a numbered list, and I can just, note number 1, and whatever my notes may be. My beautiful typing here. And maybe I've got some that just pretending here. I'm good at pretending. I've got lots of kids. They teach me how. So I have my notes, and say I've got enough notes in here that there's another page created whenever I start adding in all my notes. Okay. And I'm just doing this so that you can actually see what happens whenever we get back into MicroStation. So now I save this file with my additional notes, and I go back over into MicroStation, and I'm going to tell it to update now. And you'll notice that when it when it runs into another sheet, it places it right next to the other one. But in this situation, you'll notice too that I have this gap in between the 2 borders. Okay, so I have this sheet and then this sheet. This is controlled from the properties dialog. So if I go back to my link information dialog box here, you'll notice I have a page spacing, and that's why I had a note in there that the recommended page spacing is 0. Okay, so it's taken this 15.4 divided by 2, whatever that is, and 9.6 divided by 2, whatever it is. That is the size of this particular sheet. Okay, whenever I turn off the page spacing, and I'm going to leave the boundary on for now because that gives me the blue box that you see going around the edge. Okay, notice that as soon as I put the page boundary to 0, it put those 2 sheets together. Without the boundaries turned on, it's hard to see what it's doing. So now I can see, okay, now I have these 2 page boundaries, and there are 2 pages in here. If I wanted to modify this, I could open Word back up, okay, and maybe I need my columns to be closer together, okay, and maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. The way that I control that, I would go to Page Layout, go to the size, more paper sizes at the bottom, okay, and maybe I don't want it to be that wide. Maybe I want to put this to 6 inches by 5 inches, okay? Not a big difference. Let's make that 5.5, just so you can see the difference. And then I'll tell it, okay. All right, so now it's justified this differently. All right, save those changes, close it, come back in here and update. Any Word document, and you see the changes here, and it doesn't fill up the whole plan sheet anymore. Any changes that I make in the Word document, whether it's fonts, text sizes, the styles, whether it's got, you know, bullets or my page numbering, it all gets that, all of that information comes out of Word. So I have to control all of this from Word. The margins, yes, I can set the margins, and that helps give me more space between my columns, but it can't condense it down any closer than my page size. Okay. The other thing that I wanted to note to you guys is that when you're in Word, the text size is 7. For all of those templates that you see, they're all set to a text size of 7, and that equates out to the 0.07 that we need for our standard text sizes. The other files, like the Excel files, those are set to 8, and I don't know why there's the difference between the two and how it comes in. That would be more of a developer programmer kind of thing, but I just know there's a difference, and I wanted you guys to know there's a difference, that when you're in Word, to get that 0.07 at a scale of 1, then you need to set your text size to 7. You can take any Word doc that you've got out there, as long as it's a DOCX, and link it into MicroStation. Just keep in mind the different things that you're going to need to do to that file, so that it shows up and it fits in your plan sheets. Okay. The other thing that we have in here, like I said, we've got, let me go to the Word docs again. We have all of these, and hopefully this is enough to get you guys started for whatever application you may need to add a Word doc. But we've also added all of these signature sheets, and statements of responsibility for the signature sheets. So we've got the architect, the engineer, geologist, surveying and mapper, and the land surveyor, architect, and surveyor. There's a professional and a registered surveyor and mapper. Each one of these has a different rule that they are governed by in the statutes, and those rules are all in each of these statements. Okay. Hopefully there's not too many questions on that. All right, let me cancel out of that. That's pretty much what I wanted to show you as far as the Word docs. Let's go back over to the presentation, and let's talk about the summary of monitor existing structures. This is fairly new. I think it was in January or February, there was a bulletin that went out, and basically they took the they took the pay items for 108-1, 2, and 3. They used to be something else. And they basically, they went in and they've rewritten the spec and they moved the specifications. I think it was like 400 something. But it was somewhere else in the spec, and they moved that to 108, okay? In the process of moving it, of course, the pay item numbers also changed because our pay item numbers are linked to the specifications, okay? That first 4 digits is connected in with our pay item numbers and our specs. So we had a lot of change with that, and there was a bulletin that went out, and then there was a lot of, I guess, kind of chaos ensued for a few months after that. Originally we had plan boxes, and now we have a summary box. This is the new summary box. It was released just this past month for everyone to use. And I just wanted to notate some things about how we use this box because it's a little bit different from the rest of our summary boxes. All 3 of those pay items are lump sum, and if I need to have any one of those 3 pay items included in my plans, work's got to be done, then I have to have that pay item included in a plan summary box. That's the rule, right? Okay, so if I need one of these pay items, then I'm going to include this summary box in the plans, okay? And I'm also going to include the appropriate columns for whichever pay item that I need. If I'm not using all of the 3 pay items, hide or delete the columns that I don't need so that I'm only seeing the active pay items that are going to be included with the project. If I have locations, if you're using 108-2 or 108-3, you will have locations. I'll talk about 108-1 in a minute. Okay, if locations are included, then the quantity is to be designated with an X in the quantity column. Okay, because it's lump sum, we didn't want the confusion of seeing all those ones for each location and then there's a total of 1. It's a lump sum pay item, so we're going to designate the locations with an X, and our total, again, because it's lump sum, will always be 1, okay? If I am using this box and it is a lump sum project, okay, the rules for lump sum projects, I can show individual quantities, but I can't show the totals for any given pay item. So my total column, or my total row, excuse me, would be left blank. Also, there is a note. It went through many iterations trying to get it right between some of the criteria group, upper management, and legal, and they've created this note for us, okay? That note is to be included with the summary box as it is written. Do not modify that, and always include this note. Don't delete that out of it thinking we don't need it. Always add that note to the bottom, okay? So we don't want to modify that either. Okay. I told you I'd talk about 108-1 in a minute. All right, so 108-1 is the inspection and sediment monitoring pay item. This one is a little bit different in that, according to the specifications, given certain situations, there are prescribed limits that are already in the specifications. So if there are locations within those limits, we're not identifying them. They're part of the spec and they're a part of this pay item, and the contractor is responsible for the work, for locating them as well as the work. We just have to have a pretty good idea, yeah, we're going to need this. Go to the specifications for guidance. So If I don't have any locations outside the limits and the specs, and it's a lump sum project, but I do know I need 108-1 and I don't have 108-2 or 3, then I'm in essence putting a blank box in my plans, okay? The example that you see right here is what I would expect to see for a project given those parameters. There's no locations outside the specs. I need to have the inspection and settlement monitoring performed during the work on the project, and it's a lump sum project, okay? This is what would go in the plans. All right, I've had that come up, some questions. Now, what I've talked about so far has all been, how do I use this summary box? And that's the only intention that I had for bringing it up during this webinar, because it is a new summary box and it needs to be treated a little differently. As far as design concerns and questions that you might have, all of those should be answered in another webinar that the design group is going to be putting on here, hopefully in the near future. I haven't seen a date and time for it yet, but I know they're working on setting up a webinar so that they can answer questions on, you know, I've included this, you know, how many hours would they need for that, as far as in a contract with a consultant doing this work, as far as what types of structures, what are you looking for, the design type application and questions that you would have as far as, okay, how do I know I even need to include this pay item? Those will be answered in that webinar. So be looking forward if you have questions in those regards. Okay. All right, added support. This one I got really excited about. They have, for us, they have gone in and given us support for scaling and rotating our summary boxes in our plans. And it goes with for text or any kind of link, actually, not just our summary boxes, but that's pretty much where we use it the most. And it also gives us the added ability that when I place a link into my MicroStation file, it's going to use the view rotation instead of true north. So if I rotate my view like I would say in a text RD file, and I'm need to put in a box. Good example I can think of for as far as a box would go, we've got the small VVH box. I could rotate the view to my clipboarder and then place the box, and the box is going to be lined up with my plan sheet border, and it's going to show up right in my plans, and it's going to remember that rotation, and if I have to update it, it will remain at that other rotation. Same goes with the scale, and that sure beats the heck out of having to go in and you place the box somewhere off out in space somewhere, and you create a saved view, and then you reference that saved view into your plan sheet or wherever it needs to go at that rotated angle, because then I can rotate the reference. But the original summary box never gets changed or moved, so I don't have to worry about when I go to update it whether or not it's been modified, and it goes back to the original true north. So that's been something that you guys have been asking for a long time, and we have finally gotten it out there. So take a look at that. Hopefully it makes your life easier. And I'm just going to show you a couple examples. Like I said, I got so excited over this one. Cancel this because it adds so much more flexibility to what you do. As an example, okay, this is one of the summary boxes, or the data boxes. I can come in here and I can, let me select it. And then I'm just going to grab it and scale it and then move it back onto my sheet because that bugs me. And it's still too big, but close enough. Okay. So now I have this larger box. I can go in now and I can go open the source and I can make a change. So structure 1, and let's give it a station and save the file. I just need some kind of change. Okay. And then I can go up there and tell it update now. And it's still going. Ta-da! The size is still the same. Before, it would have gone back to that original placement and size. So it remembers it. Another thing that, I mean, if I wanted to rotate my view by 2 points, so let's just flip this around on our side over here, I could then create a link. Let me just, I'll grab the project notes and put those in my discipline directory, and I'm going to save that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and turn off, I'm going to set my page spacing to 0, page boundary, turn it off, tell that okay, and now you can see it's using the rotation that I have for, I need to look at that, it's using the rotation that I have for my view, okay? And I could go in here and again, I could, let's see, I always have to look for that. I can go in and I can rotate this, okay? And it's using active angle with 2 points. I want a bigger one than that. I'm used to using 3. Okay, so I put it on this other angle and I'm going to scale it. Okay, so now it's huge and I can go into that file. All right, save this document, close it, and now I can go in here and update it. And it remembered the rotation, it remembered the scale, and it updated the file. There's my added text to the file, and it remembers all of that information, and I don't have to worry anymore about whether or not I've got to redo all of my rotating, scaling, etc. every time I have to update that link. It's in there, it's done. Okay, I'm going to unrotate my view. Okay, and I'm not doing that. Let's go back to my presentation and let's talk about the last thing that I have to talk about today. And that is sorting my data on summary boxes. This was an ad hoc that we added to the FDOTSS4 database. I added it some time ago. I think it might be an SS2, but I cannot remember exactly. But I know it's an SS4. And this ad hoc called sort by is used by LDM during automation in order to sort the quantities in the list. Okay, so it'll sort by this ad hoc first, and then it sorts by station. It can be numeric or text. And the first example here for the summary of sidewalk, I added a sort by ad hoc called left and right, and it sorted my quantities by those that I had set to left. So the left is come in first, and then the right came in next, because it'll be in alphabetical order whenever I use a text. And then for the bottom one down here, I don't remember exactly which Adhocs that I used, but whenever I set it up, I wanted it to show my main line first, where I had the new construction, and then this is the road that we're tying into. It's State Road 61 and US 98 over here in District 3, and baseline 98 has different stationing. Normally, with the other way of it sorting everything, it would have put my 98 quantities first because they're of a lower value than my main line. So I can go in, and whether I use a text or a number, either way, it just depends on the type of data that I have and how I want it to sort and come out onto my plan sheet. Depends on which direction, whether I want to use numbers or text in order to get that to come into my boxes right. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and go back into MicroStation and switch files. One thing about if you are already have shapes out there and you already have an MDB file for Quantity Manager for your quantities, you're going to want to go back into those shapes, add this ad hoc. One of the things that you need to be very careful of is that you don't want to override any ad hocs that you already have. If the sort by ad hoc does not exist, you can just use the append and it will leave everything else alone. If you've already added the sort by, you're going to have to be a lot more careful in modifying those values so that you don't, especially things like asphalt, friction course, anything that has a ad hoc value that is used in the equation to calculate the quantity. Okay, so asphalt is a very good example of that because the lift or how the thickness of our asphalt we're putting down is one of the ad hocs. In this example, you can't see it from here. This is something that we did on purpose. If you're used to using SS3, you're used to seeing whenever I hover over an element, that would give me not only the level and element information, it would also give me my DDB feature if it existed, my feature information if it exists, and any ad hocs and the values. It would give me some of those. It's only so big a box. And SS3, you could, if I had ad hocs on certain elements, and at times seem random, but because it's not everything that had an ad hoc value on it, but there were some elements that whenever I would hover over, even by accident, just kind of flipping past, it would crash MicroStation. So in SS4, we have added a configuration variable, and you can turn it off if you would like, but this configuration variable turns off that ability to have that information show up on my cursor here. And that stops the crashing at least in that situation. So if you need to look at this information, which I do, I need to show it to you, I need to go to Geopack Road. To see the DDB features, I want to see element attributes. Okay, and these have been set up, and then I select an element, and it's going to give me my DDB feature, which is my asphalt pay item here. It's 2.5 inches. It goes in my summary pavement, which is roadway, and I have a sort by ad hoc value of 1. So this is my main line. This from here back to this intersection, this is all of this is new construction. It ties in with the existing somewhere around in here. And then we've got some widening to the existing road that keeps going. So this is my quote-unquote main line. I wanted it first, and then I want to see the baseline 98 is second, so I have a 2. And then finally, I wanted to see my side streets. So I've numbered that 3. So I've got 1, 2, and 3, and it shows up, it will show up in that order whenever I go to place my summary box. Okay, so let me go ahead and show you that. It goes in the sum QRD, but I'm going to go ahead and show it to you in this file just for time's sake. It's in a database called AsphaltSort.mdb. I'm going to grab that, and then I'm going to grab the summary of pavement and tell it OK. And I'm just going to give it another name. Asphalt pavement. Save that. Give it a second to do its thing. Okay, I'm going to tell it to place the title block. I'm not worried about the graphics. Tell it OK. And it's going to come in teeny tiny. All right. So here it is on the end of my cursor. I'm going to data point to place it in the file. And now you can see that I have a side street, which is this 38 stationing. I have my main line, which has the 700 stationings. And then I have the US 98 starts at 20 something. So, and it goes down. So I've been able to, by the use of that ad hoc, manipulate the sorting of all of these quantities within my spreadsheet. Okay, and LDM will do that for me. Another example that I have really quick, let's look at, I have some sidewalk. Okay, this is looking at this project from a different perspective. This is US 98. This is my main line. Okay, so I have sidewalk, proposed sidewalk in here for each of, from where we're tying in, which is right across from a high school, down to this side street. Okay, if I look at the attributes in here, the sidewalk, since my stationing goes this way, this is left. The sidewalk on the left side of my road has a sort by ad hoc value of left, and my, get the right one. The ones on the right side have right. And I took this and created an MDB of just this pay item. Typically you would want to put all of these together, but these are set up as examples. So I can go in here, tell it to create new from quantities, grab the sidewalk sort MDB, and sidewalk, oh, it's right there. Tell it sidewalk, tell it OK. I'm going to give this one sidewalk sort. Give it another name, tell it OK. Again, I'm just putting it in this file for time's sake. This actually goes in the sum QRD. Okay, this sees this as a text file. No. It didn't automatically catch it that time with the right extension. So sidewalk sort XLSX, save. There we go. Place the title block. I'm going to go ahead and use the drawing scale so it's a little bit bigger this time. Place that in there. And now you can see that it's not coming in right. All right, I know what I did. All right. Let me delete the graphics. Sidewalk sort, sidewalk. It has to do with this uppercase deal with LDM. LDM is very, very picky on upper and lowercase. Needless to say, I will be getting that updated and fixed for you guys. And I'm not worried about placing the title block. Use the drawing scale, tell it OK. Notice when I told it to delete the link in graphics, it left my plan sheet border sitting here. So if I ever needed to put in another one and I automate it, I do have the option. I can just not toggle in the place title block and it won't put my border in there for me. Okay, so now I've brought it in and now you can see I have the left and I have the right. And it resorted the order for me. Okay, I think that's about everything that I wanted to show you. Of course, if you need anything, need help, give me a call. Or you can also send an email to ECSO.support and that'll hit everybody within our, well, most everybody in our office gets that. Okay, let me see what I can do about answering any questions that the guys didn't answer. It looks like most of them have been answered and I want to tell everyone thank you. Okay, question, can you sort by lift numbers? For example, 1 inch, 1.5 inch, 2 inch, etc. The answer to that is yes, you can. When you sort it, you would just need to put in your lift value of 1 inch. You would need to take that 1, make it a number, and put 1 down for the value for your sort by ad hoc. And then yes, 1, 1.5, 2, etc. And it will sort that for you by lift. If the sort by ad hoc is left blank, will LDM default to organize by stationing? Yes, it will. And so that's not a problem. Or the other question is maybe I'm automating and I don't have that sort by ad hoc. Does that break it? The answer to that is no. It'll still work just fine. For an interchange, how do I sort for 3 baselines? Basically, that depends on how you want to sort your baselines. If I have my baseline names are such that if in alphabetical order, so a good example, if I'm doing ramp work, so I've got ramp A, ramp B, ramp C, or ramp 1, 2, 3, whatever. Ramp A would come before ramp B, would come before ramp C. Now, as long as that's the order that you want it to show up in your summary box, you can use the names of your baselines. However, you may have baselines on side streets that you want everything for each side street together, but you don't necessarily want it in alphabetical order because you may have the first street is, I don't know, Windy Drive and the last street Corab Drive. Okay, so I want Windy to come before Corab, so I would need to take those two and put them in a different order. The way to do that, the way I would recommend to do that is to go in and add numbers so that you can tell it, okay, I want this one first, this one second, this one third, and then once it's sorted the groups of quantities, then it'll take each group, put them in order, and then by stationing order within each group. Does it sort 1, 2, 3, 4 or 1, 10, 11, 12, 2, 20, 21, 22? It uses 1, 2, 3, 4. Another one, does the sort recognize upper and lower case? I believe that it might, but I need to test that to verify that answer. If you want to get back to me later on, I can answer that question. If I can get it before the question and answer gets posted, then the answer will be in the question and answers. And last but not least, what's the best way to create a link for the summary of drainage structures? As far as I know, there is no template listed for this. Do I use some generic template and modify it? No, we do not have a template, not for LDM. There is a template for a summary drainage structure VBA. You can get to it off of the drainage FDOT menu. And that VBA it's designed to take one worksheet and an Excel file, and I put all my drainage information into one worksheet. Then from that one worksheet, the VBA breaks that up into however many line items I can fit or rows on a sheet, and it will subtotal that for me and then keep going on to the next sheet. It places my plan sheet borders for me. It numbers all of my sheets for me. And it'll also break up not only going down the list, but if I can't get on more complicated drainage projects, if I can't get all of the columns that I need on one sheet, it will create, say, 12 and then a 12A, which is a continuation onto the next sheet, knowing that it's got to keep, the first few columns, like the structure number and description, etc. There's like 4 columns at the beginning that needs to be repeated on the next sheet, and it knows it. And so it's been customized, this VBA was customized for the summary of drainage structure sheets, because they can become very complicated as far as how much information is there. There is a master template in the FDOTSS4 or any version of the software VBA directory, and you can copy that. It's the FDOT summary of structures, summary drain underscore master. It's very obvious when you see it. When you get to that file, copy it into your project directory, modify it. You'll have to customize it for whatever pay items that you have. There's like everything under the sun in that one master file. It's huge. If you want to create a generic template for this, it's going to become very involved, because one, you need to know how many rows. You're going to have to create the subtotal rows as it needs to be shown on a summary drainage structure sheet, which is not, it doesn't look like a normal summary box. And you're going to need to create multiple worksheets, because I need to be able to link that in, and it only links in what's in that one worksheet. I can't have it repeat header rows or those quote-unquote first header columns with my structure information in it. I can't do that. I actually have to bring it into another worksheet and then create the grand total. So you'll have to create all of your, there's a lot more work involved as far as, creating the formulas to add everything up together to get it onto your grand totals for all the sheets that you may need. If it's a simple project, it's one sheet, that's going to be easy for you. But a lot of times, if you're using a summary drainage structure sheet, it's because you've got enough drainage information that you need to show that it's going to take more than one sheet. And it's just easier to use the VBA. And because of all of the things that are written into the functionality of that other VBA, we decided as an office that we would not include the same box with the templates with LDM. It's kind of a duplication of effort on our part, and that's how mistakes get made. So we made a decision not to do that. So it looks like that's all of the questions that did not get answered. I also want to thank Umberto Castellero for joining us today as well. He was here to help answer any questions that you might have had about the summary of monitoring existing or monitor existing structures, and I appreciate him being here as well. With that being said, I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day and great week, and we will see you next week. Next week's webinar is on the traffic control plan items and all the changes that we've made to levels, cell libraries, etc., and some cleanup efforts that are going on with the traffic control plans. Have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next week.